Hey guys, Ryan from Spyker Workshop, and today I'm going to show you how to put together my idler wheel upgrade for the 1/6 Dragon Sherman kit. And I'm just going to jump right into it. These are some of the parts that you'll get in the kit. Some of these holes have to be drilled out. We need a 1/8 inch drill bit and a 9/64 drill bit. These 4 holes here need to be drilled out with the 9/64. Also, the holes on the bottom of these 2 parts, and then the 1/8 drill bit. Drill out all these holes with the 1/8 inch drill bit. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I have all these drilled out. Forgot to mention there's another hole on the back side of this, so there's 6 holes total to drill out with the 9/64 bit. Then we can get the wheels ready. And I already actually glued them in here, but your kit comes with this printed hub, and you want to glue that into the wheel. There's a top and a bottom of this part. The bottom has like straight walls and then a curve. You want that part to be facing down. And then you can preload the bearings if you want, or you can put them in after they're already glued in place. It's up to you. And then also on the hull here, these parts, there's a right and a left. They need to be glued onto the hull, but before you do that, you have to drill a locating hole. So to make the locating hole for this, you want to just hold this plate up to the hull here, and then using a 1/4 inch drill bit, drill through that hole, in through the hull, but then take this back off, and we need to enlarge this hole to a 5/16 or somewhere around there, and then drill out just this hole larger. Do not drill this to anything else, because it's a very specific size for these hex shafts to fit through here and still be able to turn nicely. So leave this hole undrilled. And then once you have a hole there, you can glue these to the hull on both sides. And then you also want to cut away some of this. This is the stock part that is glued on the back. You have to cut like from here down and then over. All this should be removed up to this surface here, up to this flat point. And then you also have to cut just a little bit of this angle out. And the reason is because the pivot point of these, it blocks that. It should be able to come all the way up to probably about there. And the reason I have this as the pivot point instead of this is because I didn't want to try to bother beefing these things up and making these stronger. It's just too small of a part to work with for plastic stuff. So all of my strength components are hidden inside the hull, and most of all this, well, pretty much all of this, it will be hidden behind the wheel once it gets mounted, so you really won't be able to see it, so it still retains most of the scale look. Here you can see on this side that I probably cut a little bit too much off of this side. You could leave this upper part still on here, but you can see now with that hole that the idler wheel can be adjusted now. And it's not quite the same as if the pivot was here, but you still should have enough of a swing to keep the wheel in the scale position here and still be able to actually tension the track properly. So to get these arms ready, your kit will come with these aluminum standoffs, and these should be press fitted into each one of these. I used my vise to gently press these in place here. And then on the back side, I'm using a different screw now, but I'm actually changing it. In your kit there'll be a flathead screw, but for this I'm just using a pan head. But you'll put in, make sure to use Loctite to make sure that these screws don't back out. But yeah, screw that in there, and then this part, these bearings should fit on, but the shaft is slightly oversized, so you're going to have to take a file and file these down until these bearings will fit over the end smoothly. So I filed it for a while, and then I also used some sandpaper. It doesn't take too much, just enough to get them to fit on here loosely like this now. And then just load one of these on here for now, and then take one of these hex shafts, and that will feed in the back side here. And this also will be kind of a tight fit. I'm going to use a rubber mallet to pound it in there. Then once you have that in there, take a washer and a screw here. Make sure to use thread locker in here too, and then I'm going to screw that in. So here I have the arm ready to install in the hull. So this hole is kind of a tight fit, but the hex shaft you should be able to force in there, and then you can see the amount of throw it will have. If your track's still too loose, you might have to shave off some more plastic on this part. Try to keep, you know, the outside area still intact because you can see it from this side, but you can't really see any other angles because of the wheel's in the way, you know. But this does compromise the scale appearance just slightly. But you know, like after the wheel is applied, you can't really see it that much. So then from the inside, there's two of these pieces, and there's a right and left. One side is smoother than the other. You want the smooth side where you'll be applying the glue in a second here. So you can see on this side I already have mine glued in place, and the way that we do it is this hole will be put over the shaft, and then you use that to align. You can choose wherever you want this to be. I would have this edge of it be near the top deck, so like when I get to the other side here, after I have the shaft in here to line it up, I'll move it so it's up here and then glue it to the wall of the tank. And then that creates a pivot point, or an anchor point, for the adjustment of this. So then the next thing is one of these pieces here. And you can always play around with what angle the shaft is. And it might actually be kind of a tight fit. If you take the shaft all the way back out of the tank after it's glued, to kind of, once you put it in here a couple times and remove it, it makes it loosen up a little bit. So I actually ended up taking a really small file to the inside and just barely shave off just a little bit of plastic. I'm going to leave it this tight of a tolerance because you want this part to fit really tight. And then just after a little bit of that, now it fits on here pretty easily. And this is what, like, it uses the hex shaft to keep tension on the idler wheel. So now I can reinstall it. And then you can see when I move this lever that the outside idler wheel will move. And you can play around with like what notch to put this. Actually, that was probably good as it was there. Yeah, maybe put this up farther, or maybe I'll change the rotation of that hex shaft a little bit in the 3D file. By the time you get it, it should line up better in your kit. But you can see that's how the tension is adjusted for the track. So you can, there's two screws that come with the kit like this, and this is what screw you'll use to go through here. And then there's one more piece yet to put on there. So this next part that needs to go on, I'm also going to leave the tolerance of this hole pretty tight because this also should be tight. And what you can do is actually chuck the hex shaft up on a drill and use the shaft to enlarge the hole on this thing. It seems silly, but it'll kind of, it will shave off enough to make it fit easier. So then when I go to put it on here, it fits a lot easier. And then this part, it's up to you if you want to glue this to the back wall. Just for starters, I'm not going to glue mine to see if it's strong enough. Because after you put this cap on, you use one of these black screws in the washer, and then this will pull the whole assembly really tight together. And to me, it seemed to be strong enough on the outside. I'm going to go ahead and tighten this down. So I got it tightened down, but it's not, it's tight enough to keep tension on everything, but it's not completely bottomed out. Because you see when you adjust this lever, you still want this part to be able to move to keep flat against the wall like that. And like I said, it's up to you guys if you want to glue this to the wall. But the actual strength of it, let me quick run a screw in there. So you can see after I lock it with a screw, the track force will be put this way on the shaft to try and pull the track together. And I mean, it seems strong enough. I won't know until I actually get the tank driving around outside. But gluing this to the wall would help strengthen it, but it would make it a little more difficult to take apart to do maintenance on later. So I'll just see what happens once I get the tank fully assembled. So then to finish up the assembly, this wheel needs to be pressed into place like this. And then the other bearing put in over that. It might be easier, actually it might be easier to fit in the bearings off of the shaft. And then put some thread locker in that hole. And then I'm going to use that same black screw that we've been using to tighten it down. And you first want to tighten it until everything gets squished together, but then loosen the screw a little bit until it spins smoothly. So the next step is something I have to experiment with, but for right now I'm going to just use this wheel as a cap and just see if this will work just as is without doing anything else with this wheel. Because all the track tension should be going this way. This wheel should be the one protecting any sideways forces on the idler, but I'm going to have to see what happens after I start running it outside. If this falls off on me, your kit might have a piece that gets glued in here, and then you might have to drill holes through the wall here and use screws from the back side to screw this wheel in. But I'm going to see if it works without that first. But yeah, now you can see the actual wheel in place here. And the scale detail is still mostly here. Like I said, I cut this one a little too much on top. Yours, you probably won't need to cut it that much. But like underneath, it still looks like the same part. And then from the front side view here, sorry, there's so much stuff in the way on the table here. Yeah, you can see it appears to be stock. You can just barely make out that arm part right here, but for the most part everything's hidden. And then let me loosen the screw in here and show you the swing rotation. So you can see after I remove the screw, like the range of travel you can have on this thing. This should be plenty enough to adjust the track tension. And then you'll have to do everything the opposite on the other side, because some of these parts are mirrored. And then Next video I make will be when I actually get all the tracks assembled and put on this thing. But I don't know how long that will take me. There's so many screws to do on those tracks. Let me put this screw back in really quick. So just to show you some of the, like if I put a lot of force pushing in on this, it has a little bit of flex, but it's not really flex, it's just tightening up against that hex shaft that's holding the wheel in place. But it takes quite a lot of force. I mean, we'll just have to see once I get the tank running to see how well that handles it. That's one of the reasons I haven't listed anything for sale yet. I've been waiting until I get the thing actually outside driving around to see how well everything handles it. But yeah, that wraps up the assembly video for this, so let me know in the comments what you guys think, and thanks for watching.